The South African Civil Aviation Authority is a body responsible for airline safety and security. It has oversight on the quality and standards of the training of pilots and the safety of equipment. To explain and discuss the role of the organization and the country in maintaining the safety of air passengers and how South Africa is equipped to deal with any particular threats in and around airports, the Civil Aviation Authority's Executive Manager of Aviation Security Training and Certification is Luvuyo Gqeke. And Luvuyo, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Pratim.
Much appreciated. And I have a general sense of what you do as the Civil Aviation Authority, but you've got oversight over several things, almost the entire value chain of air travel in the country. Just explain to me what CAA is all about.
Pratim, the CAA is an agency of the Department of Transport. Therefore, our mandate from government is to ensure that the people of South Africa, the flying public, is both safe and secure when they fly.
Sure.
We have different divisions within the CAA. We've got a division that looks at safety. That means they oversight airlines in terms of, do they have safety mechanisms in place? Are the aircraft maintained? Are the aircraft safe for passengers to fly? They oversight the pilots. Are they trained? Are they trained by schools, training schools that are approved by the CAA to ensure that the training standards are met? We also have the unit that I head, which is this Aviation Security Unit, which looks at airports. Do they have security measures in place to protect passengers? As well as the airlines, do they have those measures in place to protect those? We also have a unit that looks after air traffic. We don't do air traffic management ourselves. ATNS is responsible for that, but we oversight the performance of that. And the same unit will also look after aviation infrastructure. Do airports have the equipment and infrastructure that is required to ensure that passengers are safe and secure when they fly?
Yeah, well, and it's very important to separate these entities because then you have the oversight role and the different parts of the system deliver the services, right?
That is true. We are able to maintain independence because we separate from the implementation of it.
Sure.
Yes.
And there was a complaint or concern at some point that civil aviation is not adequately staffed and so on, that you still need more expertise within the aviation authority. Have you resolved that as the CAA?
Pratim, we have people in all the units that I've mentioned. We've got experts who look after these areas. We've got pilots, we've got engineers, we've got aviation security specialists, and they look after all these areas. One of the things we ensure that we do all the time is to ensure that our people are also trained. We send them internationally for training. Sometimes they get training locally. And then that way we're able to keep abreast.
I'm not sure if you are familiar with the developments at the air traffic control setup, because I recall some years back there was concern that they overworked the air traffic controllers and that they are fewer in number, a large number of resignations and so forth there. The situation, how is it now?
Pratim, because of the fact that our standards are high, our people will always be recruited internationally. So we'll always have that problem. In fact, it's a problem that the whole of Africa we're grappling with, brain drain. But however, what I can assure you is that we do have sufficient people. In fact, we do oversight even how people are work, how many hours they work, to ensure that our people are not overworked and therefore putting the lives of passengers at risk.
You know, one could think that you sit in offices, have oversight, go through documentation and so on, and have no appreciation of the number of systems you have to deal with. I mean, the number of airports that you have oversight over and the number of airlines. Do you have a sense of that number?
Pratim, we even though we sit in the office in Midrand, some of us, but we've got an inspectorate.
Yes.
That goes out and visits all the airports. All the divisions that I mentioned earlier have got inspectorate that goes out and visit those airports to ensure standards are met, that visits those airlines. We inspect them annually, which is scheduled. We inspect them ad hoc without them knowing that we are coming to ensure that these standards are met. We do that all the time. If you talk for instance, about scheduled airlines that operate schedules. We've got in the region of over 40, and we've got a whole lot of other non-scheduled airlines, that is your charter operations. And all of these we visit regularly.
But do you have any authority over the smaller aircraft and the flying schools? I know that, I mean, there's one in Midrand and there's another in Germiston and probably a few others elsewhere in the country. Those smaller aircraft, you don't have any oversight over, do you?
Tim, our mandate is for commercial aviation.
Yes.
So if you're participating in commercial aviation, then we have mandate over that.
Okay.
So even the training schools, you cannot offer training in aviation unless you are certified and approved by the CAA.
Yeah, now, the safety record of flying in South Africa is relatively good to a large extent.
True. Our safety record is good. We have not had major incidents for quite a number of years now on the commercial side of things. And it compares well with our counterparts internationally.
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the things we always try and do, is to make sure that we keep abreast with what's happening internationally. So we meet with our counterparts. We participate at ICAO, for International Civil Aviation Organization forums. For instance, in the next week, we'll be participating at the ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization Assembly, where we make the regulations for the next 3 years internationally.
But you know, notwithstanding that the numbers of people flying are increasing in South Africa, and that it might be prohibitive for some to fly, I am of the view there are a lot of people who'd rather drive internally in the country than fly because of, you know, the perceptions that it's not safe to travel by air.
Tim, traveling by air is still the safest method of traveling. As I mentioned earlier, we haven't had serious incidents in the recent time in commercial aviation, and we are even stricter on those airlines that carry passengers, because that is our mandate. Most people think our clients are the airlines. No, the people we service is the public.
Yes.
So our role is to ensure that those people are safe. So we've got all these measures to ensure that happens.
The aircraft that flies over South African skies, you know, transporting people, are they safe? I mean, how strict are you with the quality, the service that's provided, and the quality of the equipment?
We are very strict, Pratim. I'm sure you would have heard of incidents in the past where we've stopped airlines from flying. When we get the slightest inkling that there might be questions around their safety, we stop them from flying until we ensure that everything has been fixed. And once everything is fixed, then we allow them to fly.
Let's talk
again.
about security at the airports. So far, touch wood, nothing major, no incidents have been reported or happened yet at the airports. But the trends around the world show that, you know, they seem to be targets of terror attacks. And how ready are the airports to respond to any potential threats of that nature?
Pratim, I can assure you and the public that at this point in time, there is no direct threat against South African civil aviation. However, because we live in the global world, our standards are equivalent to those in the world. So we ensure that we've got standards and processes in place to protect the same as you would get anywhere else in the world. In fact, I can mention to you, we get audited by the International Civil Aviation Organization, and we've passed our audits. Annually, the United States comes through to audit us to make sure that our standards are equivalent to them, the UK, Australia, and many other countries which we have agreement with. And every time our standard comes up as being equivalent to theirs. In fact, we've got quite a number of recognition agreements. In fact, the EU, we've got a recognition agreement with them when it comes to the safety of cargo that South Africa is equivalent to them.
Well, I don't want to put you into trouble. I was just about to ask you if there is any particular country that you would advise one not to travel to or fly into or over. If you don't want to answer the question, please don't. But I can tell you, for me, there are specific countries in my mind that I imagine that if I'm told you must go and fly there, I'd find a way of maybe walking to the...
Pratim, we, as I mentioned earlier, we work as part of the global community. Yes. We sit on committees, for instance, the Aviation Security Panel, which makes standard for security around the world, is chaired by the Director for Civil Aviation in South Africa, Ms. Poppy Khoza, where we make sure that all countries come up to a high level of aviation security.
So you're advocating for that too, yourselves. Now, the careers, the many young, in the past, not many people were encouraged to have anything to do with aviation, as you know. I'm actually surprised where you emerged from. What got you involved in aviation? So are there still opportunities training-wise for many young South Africans that you can mention?
But Tim, as much as the civil aviation, I can tell you, is transformed, we are still concerned about the level of transformation in the industry at large.
Sure.
And we are encouraging young people to take up aviation. In fact, we do our little bit in that we do offer bursaries to young people, particularly in the area of being pilots and being engineers. We do our little bit in that we take interns as well, so that they can get training. But we together with the Department of Transport, we are driving transformation harder. In fact, on the 11th and the 12th of October, we're having the Industry Growth Seminar in Kempton Park. I think it's the Premier Hotel, but you can get the details on our website. That Industry Growth Seminar, amongst the things that we'll be talking about, is how as the industry do we drive transformation. So we don't just want to do it ourselves. We want the whole industry to work together in terms of transforming this industry.
Yeah, because it's a highly specialized area anyway, and the training a few decades ago was not there and people were not encouraged to. So you've got to grow your own timber, as it were. People will replace you or add and so forth. And given the global nature of the business, the skills are highly mobile in some instances. So you've got to always be growing people, I suppose, in this sector. So it's happening on the 11th?
On the 11th and the 12th of October.
Okay, and for anybody interested in participating in aviation at any level, they should go to your website. What is the address?
It's www.caa.co.za.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, if I may add, the one thing that inhibits our people from joining aviation is more the cost to it, the cost of training.
Yes.
If any other organizations would like to partner with us in helping young people with those costs of learning to fly and being engineers and all of that, that would be so welcome.
Yeah, well, please go to that website. It's www.caa.co.za. Luvuyo and myself would like to recruit at least one person into aviation, and we'll welcome that. If you can go there, apply for bursary, internship, and so on, and get to participate in civil aviation in South Africa, would welcome that. And Luvuyo, thanks again for unpacking what your organization is all about. And
Thank you, Martin. It was a pleasure.
Much appreciated.